Imagine waking up tomorrow and your heating doesn't work. No thermostat, no heavy blankets, just you and the freezing cold. For our ancestors, this was the baseline reality for 10,000 years. During the last glacial maximum, average global temperatures were about 6 degrees Celsius colder than today. That shift buried large portions of the northern hemisphere under kilometers of ice and dropped sea levels so low that a land bridge connected Siberia directly to Alaska. In the unglaciated regions where humans actually lived, the landscape was dominated by apex predators. Cave lions weighing up to 300 kilograms viewed humans as a convenient prey source, forcing our ancestors to share a territory where they were often the most vulnerable targets. We lack the biological defenses of the animals we hunted. Without thick, insulating fur or specialized fat layers, a naked human loses body heat faster than their metabolism can replace it in sub-zero temperatures. In these conditions, an unprotected human dies of hypothermia within hours. Our survival was a triumph of technological intervention, bridging the gap between our thin skin and the killing cold. We can track the invention of clothing through a strange biological divergence. Evolutionary biologists have found that body lice, which live in fabric rather than directly on skin, branched off from head lice about 170,000 years ago. This provides our earliest evidence of humans regularly covering themselves for survival. By the Upper Paleolithic, humans were wearing precision-engineered gear. Evidence from burial sites suggests a 3-layer system: a moisture-wicking inner layer, a middle layer for heat retention, and a tough outer hide to block wind. This is the exact layered strategy recommended by modern mountaineering guides. Creating these garments required sophisticated tools. Ancient tailors used bone needles with eyes barely a millimeter in diameter. These instruments allowed for tight, windproof stitching that was essential for maintaining core temperatures in a blizzard. Fire complemented this clothing as a comprehensive survival system. It dried frozen garments to prevent hypothermia, provided the light needed for 16-hour winter nights, and functioned as a reliable deterrent against predators that would otherwise view an enclosed shelter as a trap. In the extreme cold, where the body's caloric demands can spike by 50%, in the Ice Age, calories were the supreme currency. Because staying warm requires constant metabolic output, fat became the most valuable resource available. It is twice as calorie-dense as protein, providing the concentrated energy the body must burn to generate internal heat. This caloric demand made the woolly mammoth a critical resource. A single adult could provide 500,000 calories, enough to sustain a group of 25 people for weeks. However, harvesting this fat required coordinated group tactics to trap and kill an animal weighing 6 times more than a modern car. Beyond their caloric value, these massive animals served as source material for infrastructure. When natural caves weren't available, mammoth carcasses provided the specialized materials needed to engineer windproof habitats on the open plains. Archaeologists have discovered circular homes built entirely from mammoth remains. Builders used interlocking jawbones and femurs for the walls, then lashed massive curved tusks together to form a structural ridge beam. This was deliberate architecture, using the only materials available to create a stable, windproof living space. In the short-term survival window, Ice Age megafauna were simultaneously the greatest threat to hunters and the essential building blocks of the community's survival infrastructure. Killing a mammoth solves the caloric deficit for a week, but it introduces a logistical challenge. A prehistoric community has to store hundreds of thousands of calories of meat without a way to keep it from spoiling during the long months before spring. To solve this, humans utilized the landscape as an asset. They dug storage caches directly into the permafrost, creating natural deep freezers. This strategy allowed them to preserve meat for months, insulated by the permanently frozen earth. For food that couldn't be frozen, they developed chemical preservation. They created nutrient-dense rations by mixing pulverized dried meat with rendered fat. This provided a portable, shelf-stable energy source that remained edible throughout the entire winter. These efforts were part of an organized, large-scale community campaign during the autumn. Every member worked to process meat, hang it to dry, and cache the food, deliberately over-preparing to create a caloric buffer against the worst-case scenarios of the coming freeze. Outlasting the winter required a shift in human cognition. the ability to mathematically model a future threat and execute a rational plan under extreme uncertainty. A long winter in a confined shelter is a recipe for social fragmentation. To maintain morale and group cohesion through the dark months, humans cultivated shared ritual and music, carving bone flutes with precise holes for consistent notes. The stories told around the winter fire were powerful tools for education. They packaged generations of survival knowledge, how to track deer in deep snow, or where to find water that doesn't freeze, into narratives that could be remembered and passed on. The cave paintings of Lascaux and Altamira functioned as sophisticated visual databases. These records stored precise details about animal anatomy and behavioral patterns. Maintained across generations, they served as a permanent repository of survival data, tracking multiple species within their home range. This reality contradicts the modern pop culture obsession with the lone wolf survivalist. In the Ice Age, solitary humans died quickly. Survival was entirely dependent on the specialists within the group, the fire keepers, the hide tanners, and the elders who remembered previous winters. We survived the Ice Age through active collective intelligence. We built an extraordinary prehistoric infrastructure of shared knowledge and labor, a system we eventually traded away for the convenience of the modern world.